LegCo election results are in, with new faces winning nearly half of the 90 legislative seats. Over 1.31 million people vote for directly elected seats, with turnout rate at 31.9%. And deadly violence breaks out again between Thailand and Cambodia, prompting thousands to evacuate. Good evening, you're watching Cable News. I'm Evan Bai. Hong Kong has elected a new batch of lawmakers, with 40 fresh faces set to enter the 90-strong legislature. The city's largest party, the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong, held the election a success, despite seeing its vote share drop by over a third compared with 2021. The Business and Professionals Alliance held on to second place after losing one seat. The Federation of Trade Unions kept 7 seats despite losing 2 incumbents. And the New People's Party saw its representation slashed in half. Sherilyn wraps up the highlights of the election.
In a major overhaul of the city's legislature, 4 incumbents out of 54 lost their seats. They are Frankie Ngan and Edmund Wong from the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong, and Kwok Wai Keung and Michael Look from the Hong Kong Federation of Trade Unions. While some mourn, others celebrate. Longtime Sai Kung District Councillor Christine Fong has finally clinched a legislative council seat on her 6th attempt, topping the poll with over 58,000 votes and earning the nickname Queen of Votes. Fong will represent New Territories Southeast, where the 2nd seat went to fellow newcomer Chris Ip of DAB. New Territories North also elected 2 fresh faces, Kazav Tam of the New Territories Association of Societies and Yu Ming of DAB. Of the 10 geographical constituencies, 6 will welcome at least 1 newcomer when the new legislature convenes. The average age of the city's 8th-term lawmakers is 50. The oldest is Chan Siu Hong, aged 67, while the youngest is Olympic gold medalist Vivian Kong, who won her maiden bid at 31 years old. Kong clinched the tourism functional constituency seat with 131 votes, succeeding Perry Yu, who switched to the election committee constituency this term and topped the field there with 1,397 votes. Looking at the political parties, DAB remains the largest party in LegCo, holding on to 20 seats, a net gain of 1 from the last term. Despite the extra seat, its overall vote tally plunged by 248,000 compared to the previous election. The Business and Professionals Alliance for Hong Kong is the 2nd largest bloc with 8 seats, down 1 from before. The FTU held steady at 7 seats, 3 of them in geographical constituencies, securing over 260,000 votes in total. The New People's Party took a heavy hit after several veterans did not seek re-election, including founder and chairwoman Regina Ip. The party's representation was slashed in half to just 3 seats. The Liberal Party maintained its current strength with 4 seats. Cheryl Yun, Cable News.
As the Legislative Council election concluded, the final voter turnout was higher overall than the previous poll. Officials hailed the success of the election. Jeremy Zhou takes a look at the turnout figures.
The final turnout rate for the geographical constituencies stood at 31.9%, with over 1.31 million people casting votes. This is higher than the 30.2% recorded in 2021, though the actual number of voters fell by around 33,000. Chief Executive John Lee congratulated the legislators-elect, stating the election held profound significance. The Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office of the State Council also congratulated the SAR on the successful election, noting the process was safe and smooth. By geographical constituencies, 9 of the 10 saw a rise in turnout. The highest was in New Territories Southwest at 32.69%, where all candidates were women. The only dip was in Kowloon West, down about 0.3 percentage points. In New Territories northeast, home to the fire-ravaged Wangfu Court, turnout just passed 30%, the lowest among all. Meanwhile, blank and invalid ballots exceeded 41,000, accounting for 3.12% of votes cast, representing 1.08 percentage points higher than last time and a record high since the handover. In New Territories northeast, 3.45% of votes were invalid, the highest proportion.
喺呢個時間咁有130人走出嚟。
Electoral Affairs Commission Chairman David Locke said the smooth voting and counting was a first step back to normality for society after the Taipo fire. He stated the over 1.3 million voters turned out because they have expectations for the new lawmakers, adding that turnout at 3 stations near Wangfu Court was similar to others, and he had heard that some fire victims had voted. However, at 2 newly established polling stations dedicated to ethnic minorities, only 7 people voted throughout the day. The commission said it would review the arrangement. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Current and incoming lawmakers will meet the press tomorrow, reportedly invited by LegCo President Andrew Leung to demonstrate the Council's unity in following up on post-fire work in Taipo. Jeremy Zhu reports.
Speaking to the press, DAB Chairman Gary Chen, elected for New Territories Northeast, revealed a site near Taipo's Fuxing estate has been identified for potential reconstruction, pending government approval. He noted during visits that some residents wish to stay, while others find the memories too painful, stressing the need for a long-term plan for resettlement. Re-elected in the same constituency, Dominic Lee of New People's Party became emotional, discussing the fire and pledged to follow reconstruction closely. He said he was deeply moved that residents facing immense post-disaster difficulties still voted for him, showing their trust. Wholesale and retail sector elected representative Peter Hsu expressed support for the government holding parties accountable, urging to address all systemic gaps. The Hong Kong Federation of Trade Unions pledged to coordinate on reconstruction and engage stakeholders on policy adjustments. Meanwhile, the Business and Professionals Alliance for Hong Kong also promised support for improving regulations. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Police collected DNA samples from several families who lost their loved ones in the Taipo fire, as around 30 victims are yet to be identified, more than 10 days after the tragedy.
Residents from Wangfu Court arrived at the Kwang Fuk Community Hall, with some bringing along flowers. Some relatives still came to take oral DNA tests for forensic identification, even after they had initially identified the remains from photographs earlier. Police said the test results would take several weeks. A family member who declined to appear on camera said it took about half an hour to complete the test, but she was told there was no guarantee remains could be found. Her parents lived in Wongcheng House when the fire broke out on November 26th. Carrying profound sorrow, she said she very much wanted to give them an identity, and there are many procedures that still need to be handled. This afternoon, Commissioner of Police Zhou Chao inspected the site. At the Kwang Fuk sitting out area near the estate, flowers and condolence notes had been cleared, with civil aid service personnel present.
Fresh fighting erupted along the Thai-Cambodian border, resulting in the worst violence since late October. A Thai soldier was killed and at least 8 others were wounded, while Cambodia reported at least 4 civilian deaths. Thailand said around 35,000 people have been evacuated. Shurin reports.
CCTV footage captured loud blasts near the disputed frontier. In Cambodia's Oda Mienchi province, school children scrambled for cover. The latest round of conflict erupted Sunday afternoon. Thailand accused Cambodian troops of launching the initial assault with rockets and artillery against army bases and civilian areas, killing 1 Thai soldier and wounding several others. In response, the Royal Thai Air Force sent F-16 jets to bomb Cambodian military positions. Prime Minister Anutin Chanvirakul said he has granted the military commanders full authority to act, insisting Bangkok did not start the fighting and will firmly exercise rights to self-defense. Phnom Penh rejected the claims, accusing Thailand of violating the ceasefire first. Former Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen called Thai forces invaders firing into his country's territory, but urged restraint, saying the red line for responding has already been set and that Bangkok was trying to provoke retaliation. This marks the most serious fighting since a ceasefire agreement brokered by U.S. President Donald Trump was signed in late October. Cheryl Yun, Cable News.
21 people were injured in a suspected pepper spray attack at a car park in London's Heathrow airport. UK police have arrested a man on suspicion of assault and ruled out terrorism. Jamie Liu reports.
After the incident, armed police were called to the scene at the multi-story car park in the airport's Terminal 3. Police believed the incident began at around 8 a.m. when a woman was robbed of her suitcase by a group of 4 men in a lift. The woman was hit with what was believed to be pepper spray, and other people in the lift were affected, including a 3-year-old girl. At least 5 people were taken to hospital, but the injuries were not believed to be life-threatening. A 31-year-old man was later arrested on suspicion of assault on the scene. A witness said he was terrified at the time.
And I observed 3 young men, all dressed in black, with their heads covered, obscured. And they seemed a little sketchy. I don't know how else to describe it. And then they bolted and they went through a side door and up some stairs. And at that point, people started coughing. One at a time at first, and then suddenly I sort of looked around and everyone in the room was coughing, including me. There was a burning in my throat.
Officers were tracing further suspects and believed the case involved an argument between a group of people known to each other, which then escalated. The incident prompted travel chaos as trains and buses to the airport were halted and routes into the airport's central area were temporarily closed. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
Netflix proposed deal to acquire Warner Bros. Discovery, owner of franchises including Game of Thrones and Harry Potter, has raised concerns from U.S. President Donald Trump.
Trump made the comments as the $72 billion planned merger awaits antitrust reviews by federal regulators. The president said the 2 entertainment firms' combined size could be a problem.
But it's a lot of market share, so we'll have to see what happens.
Trump added he would involve in the approval process of the deal. If the merger went ahead, Netflix would absorb competing streaming platform HBO Max and Warner Bros. Studios. It would give Netflix control of famous franchises, including Harry Potter and DC superheroes such as Batman and Superman. Hollywood unions and theater owners have sounded alarm towards the merger, warning it would cut jobs, concentrate power, and reduce theatrical movie releases.
Now let's take a look at the stock markets. The Hang Seng Index ended the day down 319 points. Top active stocks of the day. Alibaba was down $1.60. Tencent was down $5. Palma was down $18.60. SMIC was up $2.05. Foreign exchange against the Hong Kong dollar. Canadian dollar 5.63, Australian dollar 5.16. Mainland's exports turned a corner in November, beating market expectations despite a further deceleration of exports to the United States.
Last month, outbound shipments rose 5.9% in US dollar terms from a year earlier, above market forecast, according to the General Administration of Customs. The reading rebounded from an unexpected 1.1% decline in October. Imports grew 1.9%, 0.9 percentage points above October's 1%, but fell short of market expectations. The trade surplus for the 11 months of the year topped $1 trillion for the first time, while the November surplus came in at nearly $112 billion. In the first 11 months of the year, exports were up 5.4%, while imports fell 0.6% over the same period last year.
In November, shipping to the U.S. fell 28.6% year-on-year, and imports from America shrank 19%. However, exports to ASEAN and EU nations rose over 8% and nearly 15%, respectively. November began with a de-escalation of trade tensions between the world's two biggest economies, after President Xi Jinping met his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump in South Korea on October 30th. Onto the weather now. Mainly fine and dry, the temperatures will range between 19 degrees and 23 degrees, becoming cloudy later tomorrow. 1 or 2 light rain patches at night. Moderate to fresh east to northeasterly winds, occasionally strong offshore at first tomorrow. That's our news tonight. I'm Ethan Bai. Thanks for watching and good night.